Oh, I'm just really excited to hear from Oly and Paula this morning, and as they share their life stories. So we're going to ask them some questions and just kind of help this process along. So are we ready?
You can hear us.
Can hear you nice and clearly.
So first question, tell us where you come from and how you met.
Okay, so I'm from Yorkshire originally. Oliver is from the Devil side, Lancashire. And we first met at a party, a friend's party. Oliver was there with with another girl, and I didn't like him. I thought it was very rude. He didn't like my pants that I had on, and he kept telling me that I didn't like them. And that was it. And then about 15 months later, would it be, we met again at summer camp, which is the Salvation Army. They have a youth camp, which is a week away somewhere playing. He was in the band, I was singing and playing my tambourine. And then, yeah, so we met there. 30 years on, 3 kids, a dog. Lots of giggles, lots of heartache, lots of fun, and yeah, brings us to today. Actually, we have our 28th wedding anniversary, 28th anniversary next weekend. So yeah, been all right.
The idea of the music camp for us lads, we were, I don't know how old I was.
Well, I was 17,
so I was a bit older than that, but. Basically, it was a week where you sort of did Bible study, you did games, you did brass, and the Salvation Army is very musically orientated. We had a brass band, and there was a choir, and at the end of the week you would put a concert on or a service on for all the parents, and that's how it worked. The way we did it was how many girlfriends could we get in a week was the general thing around it, and we went there basically to get a girlfriend each year, and at the end of the week you'd sort of say thanks very much, and because you could have got a girlfriend from London living in Manchester and that would have never have worked, so I ended up with one that was a bit closer, to be fair.
Right, next question, who or what helped you to believe in Jesus?
Right, I'll go first with that one. Being brought up in the Salvation Army is you sort of went to church whether you liked it or not. In the Salvation Army, as a kid you got taken and you were made what they call the junior soldier, and then you sort of joined the junior little brass band or the junior choir, and you just grew up in it. And we went to the army. You go to the army if you were poorly. The army before everything basically, and it was a bit of a dutiful thing, so I went, and you listened to everything, didn't believe any of it, got to be honest. You switch off, like we didn't have mobile phones or anything, but when the sermon came, like then we were doing daft things between us, like if someone stood up and prayed, we'd count how many times he said Lord, and we even had a guy there we used to call him Brian Longprayer, and he, 47 was the record number of Lords that he would say. So we weren't really taking a lot of it, our lives really. As I got older, started sort of taking a little bit more interested. Yeah, I sort of, started to sort of believe in God, but not in a personal way. I did have a faith, and it was what I would describe as an on-off faith. So. Prayer was on off as well. Didn't pray really. Didn't read the Bible unless I got a problem. And if something happened that was bad or I needed some help, I'll pray to God. Then I'd had emergency God. That's what I used to call the poo. Oh, sorry. But if everything was fine, then God would take a back seat and my life would just sort of tickle on as normal. But if something happened that that was upset me or whatever, then out comes God, and I needed some help with that, and I would perhaps pray for it. Met Paula and sort of carried on from there. Crack on, love.
Well, my in churchgoers at all. Oliver's, all his families, grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-great, they were all Salvationists. I came to the Salvation Army because my mum lived next door to the minister, and the minister was really lovely with my gran as she died. She had cancer, and they didn't go to church, but because they lived next door, he would speak to my mum, and he would go. He was called Clive, and he would and sit with my grandma when she was dying, and my mum promised him that she would send her children to Sunday school after that. So when my gran died, my granddad and my uncle came to live with us. So my uncle, my brother, my sister and myself all were then sent to Sunday school. And that's where my story started. My mum became a Christian because I became a Christian. Because being in the army, where I only, my church was very, very small. If it had 20 people in, that was a good time. But where we lived, my mum or my dad would have to walk me and stay with me at the services. So as they used to drop me at the door, and then they'd go home. And then some days my mum would say, well, I may as well just stay and see what it's all about and do that. So when I was, the two people I've got down as, I've done an essay, Oliver's done bullet points, I've done essays. My two Sunday school teachers, Auntie Audrey and Auntie Mavis, they were the ones that showed me who Jesus really was. And it was just through their encouragement, their simple teaching, their simple lives. Didn't matter how big or small my faith was, and how old I was, I still mattered. And what I had to say and what I had to believe in mattered to God.
It does.
We had a lady that every Sunday night in our services would give her testimony. She won't be auntie, but like everybody else, you all have a million aunties that aren't yours. Always, without fail. And I, as a child, I would roll my eyes thinking, oh, she's off again. Here we go. But as I've got older, that psalm has actually been one that I found myself going back to time and time again. I remember when we used to just come up to the lakes to visit, when we used to get to Shap, one song was The Majesty and Glory of Your Name used to come because you see the mountains. And then the second thought would be of Auntie Doris, because I lift my eyes to the hill. Where does my help come from? How can you not believe in God when you're surrounded by this beauty? Yeah. So those are the people that had they showed me Jesus, and so that's that. I've got more.
That's really encouraging, because we've already, you've mentioned neighbours there. We've been talking about neighbours and actually how important that neighbour, where you live was in your journey to finding Jesus for yourself, but also your people that did kids work with you and stuff like that. So it's an encouragement to people that serve in kids work to never underestimate how actions that they display, words that they do, and across the board, actually, what we say and how we act matters for a lot for the people that we live around. And you never know what part of the jigsaw that is put in for putting people's lives to introducing them to Jesus. You can't underplay that, really. So if you fast forward quite a lot of years, how did you guys end up at Grace Church?
Over to all of us.
Well, I'll answer this one, because all the way through our marriage, whatever I've done, Paul has been 3 or 4 months behind me. It's true. So we're in Rochdale, got Salvation Army in Sale, family business. My I'm not going to go into. I'm really not going to go into the ins and outs of it. But it went wrong. I had to get out because it wasn't working out. Family business with it, and I basically got bought out of that business to go away. So I did. I left. 25 years of my life doing that, and we left. And for sort of 12 months, I had a breakdown once I left work due to the pressure, and that was around about Christmas time. So I sort of pretty much ruined Christmas for the family. And then I was sat there, not really knowing what to do. Years and years and years ago, I used to do a lot of water skiing when I was a lot fitter on Windermere. And we used to go up to Windermere, had a little ski boat, and we used to go water skiing. So I always liked the Lake District, and I had this idea in my head of maybe a little B&B or something up in the Lake District, where we could sort of set up something new and start again. Whilst I was looking around, because everybody knows sort of like motorcycles, a friend of mine who runs a motorcycle training company, I went and actually trained to be an instructor. So he sort of saw me basically floating along aimlessly and in not a great way, and not a Christian guy, but doing a Christian act. He sort of said, "Come here, I'll teach you to be an instructor," and saved me. I'll never forget it. He sort of, did stuff for me, fill that gap. We bought a business up in the Lakes. It turned out, and it was weird because I was on holiday, my dad found this gallery, and he rang me up today. He said, "I've looked at this gallery," and he says, "It's really nice." And I said, "Don't be stupid." I said, "What do I know about that?" I said, "I know nothing of art." I said, "You got to be crazy, man." But he kept going on about it, so I thought I'll give it a bit of lip service. So when I got home, I said, "I'll go and have a look." And I walked in the door and I thought, "Hey, I really like this." I don't know why. And things happen in your life where I think you sort of like get actually swept along by it. And for the next sort of period of time, I got swept along with that, and we took it on. Took the business on the 7th of November 2012, and then I done the breakdown, down to pressure, I think. And so I've now got a new business which I could not physically operate because I was ill. I had a manager at the time who sort of pulled us through that one. And I was commuting from Rochdale. Alex was still at halfway through his GCSEs, so we didn't feel it was right to move at that time. So we just said for a couple of years I'll commute. So I came up on a Monday, stayed up, went home Tuesday, came back Thursday, went Friday. And for 2 years we did this. Then we moved, what was it? August 15. August 15, we were moving up, bought a house in Cockermouth. I had no idea what Cockermouth was or anything. We just sort of picked somewhere that wasn't too far from work, and we moved up. Within 3 days of that, my dad died. He was dying with cancer. We knew that, but he only made it sort of 3 days after we moved and died in Keswick. So the only sort of constant that we had at this time, we got a new business, lost my dad. The only constant we had was our church in Sale. So as daft as this may sound, we decided we would carry on going. I was sort of playing in the band and looking after that, and we would leave at 8:30 in the morning on a Sunday morning to get 8 o'clock. You were never on time, and two hours to get there. Did the service and then drove home again. And we thought, we've got friends down there. They'll see what we're doing and perhaps have us for lunch or whatever. And this never sort of happened. And it became a case of looking at us saying, what are you doing? And at the time, we were quite sort of hurt by that. But now I see it as they're actually making us see a bit of sense. This was stupid. So I left and just said, I can't do this anymore. And then I had 6 months of nothing. Didn't we?
No, you did.
Paula carried on going. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And then eventually Paula stopped. So I needed a church to go to because I love playing and love church. And I thought to myself, right, what am I going to do? So I went on, I checked yesterday, by the way, your little video is still there. I went on the internet and I Googled modern church Cumbria is what I put in. And out of that, through 1 or 2 clicks and what have you, I ended up with a little YouTube video, and it turns out it was Alan and Sarah stood on the top of a hill somewhere saying that they planted a church in Whitehaven, and I think his sort of like final gambit was, so, you know, come across from wherever you're coming from, it doesn't matter, just come and see what we're about. So I thought, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go and have a look at what you're doing with them.
Move it off,
So like, my emails have just popped up and I can't get rid of them. God.
We can't see it.
We can't see your emails. You're all right.
Okay.
No, but I can.
Right. So, so for 3 months, I got up on a Sunday morning and said, "No, I'm not going. Can't do it. I cannot do it." I feel sorry for people that actually go in a church for the first time. It's really hard. And, after 3 months, I plucked up the courage. I got my mum to come, and we came to George Street. And I'll never forget it. Couldn't get out fast enough. But I'll be honest with you, it was because it was so far different from what I'd sort of seen. I remember Karen messaging, she might remember this, but she came out of that service and said to me, "Oh, we're having a lunch, come and stay." And I said, "Not a chance on your life." And that was it, I was gone. But I went home and God was saying to me, that bloke at the front there that was sweating with his guitar, you need to go and help. You need to go and help him. And I'm thinking, shut up, I'm not, I can't, just not me, this church is not me. And it wouldn't go away, it would not go away. He needs help, go and help him. So one thing went to another, and then Paula came with me one Sunday and...
Don't let me say that.
Yeah, oh my God, she's going to carry on now.
Well, no, you finish your
I've finished, love, crack on.
Oh, dearie me. Yeah, no, I think I told you, Alan and Sarah, this when we first said about moving to a new church. I mentioned it to Elizabeth, and she was definitely, no, we aren't going there. We're not doing it because that's being disloyal to God. Because she believed that was where God was for her, which is really sad now when I look back, thinking Sale Salvation Army was the only place she saw God. And I hope now through, I mean, she was only little at the time, but I'm hoping now that she sees that God's everywhere. But when Oliver, he decided to do it, eventually Alex got fed up of leaving at 8 o'clock in the morning. So he stopped going to church. But I was a little bit stubborn. Not that I'm a stubborn person. I kind of said, no, I'm not doing this. You're not asking me to do it again, God. I've done it once. I've left home. I've left my family. I've left my church. I've joined a new church. I've done all that. I've done everything you've asked me. I'm not doing it again. And then, yeah, I've moved away again. I've moved further away from my family. I've moved all this. I'm not losing my church as well, so you can get lost. That was where I stood with it. So I continued going down, doing my Sunday school class, doing the kids choir and things like that. But God kept saying, "You've got to go." Now, if Oliver had been to Grace, you speak to my dad on a Sunday, my mum and dad, and my dad is very fondly known as Compo. So any of you who've ever watched Last of the Summer Wine, Compo is my dad. That's who he is. He's not known for wise words, but he kept telling me, "Has Oliver been to that church? Have you been yet? Well, get going. You need to get going. You need to go." And I just kept saying, "No, I'm not doing it. I'm just not going." So my mum and dad just kept saying, "You've got to do what's right for you, but you've got to do it for the family. You've all got to be in the same place." So I reluctantly came to George Street, very reluctantly. And you were all lovely. You were also very welcoming. I wasn't impressed with the speaker on the first day. It's all right, it wasn't Alan. It wasn't Alan, so I can say that. I think it was because I didn't want God to speak to me. So everything that the guy was saying, "No, that's not right. No, you're wrong. You're wrong." That's all I could think in my mind. So I went home and I thought, right, that's it. No, I'm not going back there. But you are very lovely people, aren't you? And you don't. you don't go on first impressions, and you kept on at me, and you were really lovely. You invited us for dinner, even though we didn't like your food. I'm a beige eater, and Sarah put aubergines in a chili. It's not right.
Shut up.
Courgettes.
Okay. My husband's saying I'm talking too long, so I've got to.
No, it's really great to hear from you, because I think even just that question of, will anybody be interested in what I've got to say? Well, we are, because you're being honest and open, and to get to know one another, we need to know stuff like that. And you've already described quite a lot of loss and hardship and struggles, and you've missed quite a big chunk of details out. So we know there's more hardship and difficulties, but what's coming through is that in those times you haven't run away. You've stuck close to God, and it might have taken you a little bit longer, but you've tried to be obedient, and so that is like really encouraging for us. So don't ever, your story is really, really important. I think just moving on, like I've already said, there's been a lot of difficulties, but we know there's quite a recent hardship that you've been through. So we just wondered if you just kind of talk us through the latest challenge the latest one's now, but I mean a year and a half ago, something quite significant happened, and we just wondered, how you got through that. How did you get through and discover God's grace in those times as well? So you could obviously tell us about what happened, but also how did you get through it?
Well, I'll start by saying that morning, Tuesday morning, we were having a lunch for the ladies and gentlemen of Thornthwaite. Oliver had bought a new bike, and the only time he could pick it up was that morning. So he'd got up and went off and did that. And I just went off to work and made lunch for 25 people. And then I got a phone call from, he was called Alan, actually. And when the lady who answered the phone, I thought it was Alan, one of our artists. And he does ring like 2 or 3 times a week to chat. And I thought, oh, Alan. And it wasn't. It was a guy, and he just said, I'm on the A66. I'm just letting you know that your husband's just been involved in an accident. And I kind of thought, he's not in his car, he's on a bike. So all these things go through your mind that you should ask, but I couldn't ask anything. So I took the guy's number down and just said, all right, thanks for that, I'll ring you back. And I left it. I didn't know what to do then. And then, so I did.
How you did that?
I rang him back.
Outrageous.
And said, right, I've just composed myself. What do I need to know? What am I supposed to ask you? Because this has never happened to me before. So that was my first experience. But I'll let him now tell you, and I'll come in after.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, my faith at this point, just going back a bit, is a little bit like it was better than it was, but it wasn't quite right, which I've realised now. And this is where my life sort of changed, like quite dramatically, because, like I said, I trained to be an instructor, so I sort of saw myself as quite a safe rider, if you like. I was riding home from Manchester. I was up on the 66, doing about 60 mile an hour at Embleton, and then I just heard this bang, and everything spun for a couple of seconds, and I woke up, and I was lay in the road on the A66. And what had happened was a young lady in a car had pulled out so late in front of me, I didn't even touch my brakes. I'd collided with the car, thrown me 50 yards down the road, and I was laying the road. But things got quite, I'm going to say strange. Not strange now, looking back at it, but you'll see what I mean. I'm laying the road, and I'm on the other side of the road. I didn't get run over by anything. There was nothing coming the other way. And when I came to, there was a woman right at my helmet, and she announced herself, I can't remember her name, to tell me that she was a military medic and she was trained in trauma, not to worry. And then 2 guys came running over, paramedics in a car behind me, with a bag of stuff in the boot of the car. And then another guy came running over, an older guy who was a retired GP. So, coincidence or not? You know, I've asked that a lot of questions, and I know the answer now. But you know, to have those sort of people there, basically without them, I would have died. That's as simple as that. The ambulance turned up, and when they came across this lady who was the military, I said, "Forget it, you'll never make it in that." And they got the helicopter out. So at this time, I realised I'm in the doo-doo here with this one. Move it forward. I get to, so I've now been rescued by 4 medics that were just happened to be on the scene, let's just say. I get to the hospital and I wasn't quite with it, and it turns out that they'd given me 2 CT scans because they put me through the machine and they couldn't work out why my legs were so badly damaged and I had nothing above my waist at all, injured. You know, without being too graphic, my right leg had snapped above my knee. My left leg, both bones had broken. They come through my ankle at my foot, and my foot was facing backwards. That sort of injury lay on the road should have put me in an enormous amount of pain, but I didn't. And I should have been frightened to death, but I wasn't. I don't know why. Well, I do know why now. So they put me through the CT scanner again, and as it happens, no upper body injuries whatsoever. So things are happening, which I'm thinking this is like unbelievable. So then the surgeon came across, stood at the end of my bed, and I can see it's clear as a day. He says, "You just don't survive that crash. It is not survivable what's happened to you." He says, "But you're here." So he says, "I'll fix you." And then he said to me, he said, "Someone was obviously watching over you today." And that sort of train of thought, a lot of people have said that to me, and I know what that was. You know, I spent 12 days in hospital, and this is where I know my body was broken, but I was broken in a different way while I was in hospital. And my sort of spasmodic prayer of when I was in trouble, I was in big trouble, so I was praying a lot. Got no one to talk to, so I might as well talk to God. And I got this, I come to the point where I used to think to pray you needed to be able to recite Bible passages, you needed big words, you needed it to sound right. Well, that's not true. You just talk to God like he's your dad. And that's what I was doing. And I started thanking for God for things like being next to the window so that when the sun came up in the morning, I could see that. I was thanking God for the 3 or 4 guys in the room with me that I could have a little bit of sort of chat with. And I began to realise at this point that God was in this situation. I was not panicking. I wasn't frightened of dying. I should have been. And I was quite calm. You know, I used to hate it when people used to pray for me. I used to, if I could and one of my friends from the Salvation Army, who's quite loud, I'll tell you this, quite loud, came to see me. And at the end of the evening, she said, "Can I pray for you?" And I'm thinking, I would have thought, oh no, please don't, because she wouldn't be praying for me. The whole of Preston would have heard it. And my natural reaction really would have been beforehand is to pull the covers over my head and want the floor to eat me up. Well, no, I needed it and I wanted it, and yeah, it was loud, and everybody in that ward must have heard it, but it wasn't bothered to me. So I could see things happening. The last thing that happened was I wanted to go home. I just wanted to go home because he never slept in that place. And every morning when the doctors came round, I said, "Can I go home today?" No, you can't go home. And they were talking about what they call a repatriation, which is basically, rather than sending me home, they wanted to send me to Carlisle Hospital and then let them deal with me for a few more days before they kicked me out. And I didn't want that. And the day I came home, I didn't know I was coming home. Sarah Rossi texted me. I don't know whether you remember this. And you asked me how I was. And I said, well, I'll change the words. I was quite cheesed off about the situation. And you said to me, I'll say a prayer for you now. And with no word of a lie, I know it sounds a bit freaky, this, and I'm not a freaky person in any shape or form. What happened was, within 5 minutes of you say you pray for me, the young physio girl walked in and she said, "Oh, she says, you're going home today." And I looked at her and I'm thinking, you know, you haven't got that decision, love. You're just a physio. And then the surgeon came in with his board and everything. He said, we're going to get you home today. So not only was I not going to Carlisle, I was going straight home. And it all slotted into place through the day. Then the pharmacist came in with a big bag of drugs. It's for you. I just rang Paul. I said, get me out of here. I'm coming home. And things have changed from there. You know, my life has changed considerably. My relationship with God now is a lot more close because of all this. You know, yes, I've got a ready-made testimony. You know, one or two other things before you dive in that happened, which unexplained. Some of them was I tried to sort my insurance out with the motorcycle. Now, when a motorcycle hits a vehicle, the first thing that goes is the suspension forks at the front. They collapse. But when they collapse, the bike dips down and basically you go down rather than up. So if that had have happened, I'd have gone through the car and killed the girl as well as myself. And they compounded the bike for 6 weeks because they couldn't work out why the bike went up in the air and sideways. It went probably 50 feet right and into a field. So one, it didn't hit me, but the forks didn't collapse at all. And this is why they compounded it, because they couldn't work it out. I've got to see that as a God thing. I don't know. It's really sort of, you know, and this has happened all the way. Happened all the way through it. You know, they told me that one of my legs would be shorter than the other, and it isn't. They told me that I would walk with a limp for the rest of my life. I don't. It's gone. I'm completely okay. So I thank God. I've been thanking God ever since that day for all sorts of stuff. Doesn't matter what it is, you know. The lockdown's not bothered me because I'm used to it. I've had it with this crash, you know. So, yeah, that's where we're up to at the minute. Right. Do you want to add to that?
Shall I speak now?
Yeah, go on.
I remember as a young teenager being told about your life's tapestry and the picture of that God has for your life, and how it's all, we all want it to be these lovely colours. We want it to be the bright pinks and the golds and the silvers and the reds, but God still needs us to know that we need the blacks and the browns and the greys, because we need contrast in our lives. And we need contrast in our pictures. Those of you who are doing cross stitch will understand that. I can't cross stitch, but I know a few of you are doing them at the minute. And so I remember when the police finally came to speak to me at the gallery and said what was going on. I was quite calm. I am quite a calm person, but I was quite calm. And he kept saying, do you know how serious this is? And I said, yeah, it's fine. I'm all right. And he's going, do you really know how serious this is? So I said, yeah, I really know how serious this is. But honestly, I'm fine, because I didn't get the fear. I didn't get, I didn't ever think he was going to die, because I felt God just give me a massive hug and said, don't worry, I'm on this. And that's how so when everyone kept saying to me, Oliver's mum was with me, but I didn't tell her at first, because we needed to feed all these people. And I thought the less people that know what's going on, the better, and I'll just keep it at that. I rang my friend from school just so that she could collect Elizabeth for me, and I didn't have to think any more about that. And the policeman kept saying to me, do you understand? It's really serious. And I said, yeah, I do, I'm fine. And he just couldn't understand. But I couldn't explain to him. He didn't get, I was fine, because I knew God was there. And he probably thought it was crackpot at that point. But I knew it was going to be okay. And so that, for me, even though it was like one of the darkest times, and we've gone through some really dark times with Oliver's mental health and things, even though it was probably one of the darkest times of my tapestry, I still knew that God was in charge. And and so that was it. And things worked out, you know, how I was driving to Preston every day. My parents live in Yorkshire. At the time, my mum's got a condition called acromegaly, and she's got a brain tumour. She was in hospital, going into hospital. So I didn't want them to know how serious everything was, because I didn't want them worrying. I didn't want the boys to find out on that day, because Brad, our eldest son, was sitting his final chartered accountancy exam. So the police kept saying to me, we need to ring somebody, you need to have somebody with you. And I said, I can't tell them because this is wrong and I can't do this. And when I look back, I think I don't want people to think I thought I was strong enough or I was hard enough to cope by myself. It wasn't like that. I'm a bit of a protector, so I protect my family, I protect my things, and I didn't want them worrying about me at a time like that, because I had in my heart, I knew that God was with us. So there was just a couple of friends that I told. I remember telling Alan, and then Tommy, who Oliver rides with, he should have met him that day. He came and he took me to the hospital and everything. But then afterwards, there was things, you know, who was going to work, how were we going to do this, how were we going to pay for everything, and God was just in everything. God had provided for us. It was fine for me not to go into work. I could just go in, sort out a little few bits, and then come home, because people stepped in. People would just come and help out and do things. So yeah, it was a hard time, but I was confident in my very, very, very small mustard seed faith that I've got. I don't have a faith that, I'm not very theological. I don't know all the, you know, which books of the Bible come in which order. I don't know everything like that, but I do know that I have a God who loves me, who forgives me, and who will sustain me through these things. When I was made a junior soldier, so that was about 7 or 8 years old, we had to give our testimony in if we were going to be made a junior soldier. And I read the song, because it was my favourite hymn, Oh Jesus, I Have Promised. And it's always been one of my favourite songs. And a couple of years ago, Oliver will tell me I'm a bando now. Sally, I'm a bando, but I'm not. A guy wrote a piece of music called Guardian of My Soul. Bando. And I'm going to have this piece of music at my funeral, and if you go on YouTube, check out ISB, Guardian of My Soul. This piece of music is beautiful. And the guy wrote in it, it has the tune, Oh Jesus, I Have Promised, but it also has he wrote some new words, did the composer. And the words that stand out to me is, I'll know my name and where I'm going, because Jesus is the guardian of my soul. And if you read Psalm 121 in the Message Bible, which Auntie Doris would recite every week, but the Message Bible wasn't around in her day, it talks about God being the guardian, our guardian. And I felt that through all our dark times. And yeah, we have this thing that Christmas is always rubbish, because if Oliver's had a breakdown, it's always been like the week before Christmas. And we've had some times where you think, I've tried to protect everybody else. I'm getting upset now, and I don't want to get upset.
Talk to the screen.
It's okay, Paula. You're doing a really good job. If you guys could see the encouraging words that are coming through of people just loving what you're saying and appreciating your honesty, it's like a gift when somebody is able to be that honest. And so I'm not surprised that you've said all that and the few tears have come, because there's a hell of a lot there. Enough for a whole lifetime, never mind for like a year or a year and a half or 2 years of your life. We're so thankful for you. Yeah.
I'm fine. I am all right. I just
Yes.
get. But yeah, even with all of that, even through our really, really rubbish times, we've had it, haven't we? We know that God's protected us, and so with some people, and this is where I struggle with. I don't want people to think all my relevance in life is because we look like we've got it all together, we've had it all together. We haven't. Life has been really, really, really crap sometimes, but we've got through because we know that God's there. So if anyone is, if you're starting out on your faith, if you're starting out, you've got questions or anything, I would encourage you to read the Psalms, because God's songs are just amazing in the Psalms. Listen to music, because that's what brings me close to God. But definitely, if you like a brass band, or even if you don't, just listen to that one piece. It's called Guardian of My Soul, and it's amazing, because that's who that's who my dad is.
So I think they've done a fantastic job, as I'm sure you'd all agree. What I want to just do, don't want to force it, but I think I'm going to unmute you all, and if I can.
Can I just say one quick thing?
Yeah, Sarah's going to say
just really quickly just want to say that when they joined us, we didn't know any of this, did we? And I think it's really important that we know that, because anybody that is joining us, people come with their stories, people come with heartaches and happy things as well. But I think it's really important that when we're getting to know people, that we just are mindful of what has happened.
Not just book
What has led them to the point where they're at today, and just always remember that when we're greeting people, just to be aware that people need to be loved and accepted and welcomed, because we've all got bags of baggage, haven't we, that we're carrying around with us. So I'm thankful for that. I feel like that story today is a bit of a moment where it reminds me a little bit of when Claire preached a long, long time ago. It was one of those stories where you've gripped us, and we're kind of thankful to God, and we're like, yeah. I remember praying you out that hospital bed, Oly. I was like, I'm gonna pray you out of there, because I could see that you needed to go, and God knew you needed to go too. So yeah. Can we all just give them a clap? Not hate it, but